us who you are and...
Okay, Ken Jones. I've lived in Danville pretty much all my life. Been with the Danville Fire Department where I'm a captain. Enjoy that completely, so I know a lot of people out there may know me from that. Kind of known as the Firehouse Subs guy, so always got to put a plug in, a little commercial thing in for that. And then of course we're at the gym that I spend the majority of my time when I'm off, so kind of a little bit of everything.
Cool. I guess as a gym owner, maybe we should touch more on your health and fitness regimen, maybe?
Okay. Again, like I said, I spend a lot of time in the gym. I still do a little bit of personal training, but not much. I do focus on myself more. I see the importance of it. You don't see it until you really need it, and I guess I needed it with some other things, but that worked out great. So that's probably one of the focal points for probably most businesses, that they want healthy employees, insurance rates, things like that. But then with the pandemic going on, I think it's important that we realize that's important also. And it's not the lifting weights, it's the walking, making sure your heart is just in good condition, and your lungs. As we get into this, we'll talk more about that.
Let's talk about your COVID experience. Let's talk about from the beginning. From what, I guess everybody is curious about exposures and when you experienced your first symptoms after you believed to be exposed.
Not sure when I was exposed, but I noticed that probably on the weekend I did something unusual. I was actually sleeping more than normal, and I got some cold chills. So this all happened on a Saturday, and it's unusual for me to sleep more than 4 or 5 hours a night. And I got in bed like 9:30 and slept to the next morning. So we knew something was off with the cold chills and with the fatigue. So I was scheduled to be at the fire station on Monday. But with everything going on and with this chill, and it's kind of different, I decided to go to MedExpress and get tested just to make sure I don't carry the virus inside of the fire station. So I went to MedExpress. You wait in the parking lot, then they call you, you come inside, they test you, and as a telltale sign, the more clothing they bring in when they're coming to you, the more masks and gowns and stuff, it was like, oh no, I got it. I mean, it was no question. If they would have come in with just a mask and glove, I've been like, man, I get to go to work. But when they come in fully suited, I'm like, oh man, no way. So that's what I'm saying the whole time. You got to be kidding. And he walked in, he talked to me for a little while, basically just told me to go take some Tylenol, watch my little low-grade fever, you're going to be fine. So took his advice and walked out from that point. So from that, that was on Sunday. I called work that Sunday, told them I was going to be out for 10 days per their instructions, so that wasn't a problem. The other thing that was going on, I could feel just a little tightness in my chest, but it was something that you always say, hey, that's going to go away. From day one, I was like, I'm going to go to sleep, wake up, this is over. So probably day 2, day 3, I would wake up, and of course, I didn't know it at the time, but I'm pretty sure my SpO2 levels were dropping. I didn't have a meter. Everybody, when they first started this, everybody got something for their temperature, the thermometer measured. But you do need a SpO2 just to put on your finger, just to monitor your SpO2 and your heart rate. So remember that heart rate. That was a biggie for me. So Wednesday, getting worse, but I'm telling everybody around me I'm getting better because I don't want to go to the hospital. I'm thinking this thing's going to pass. I know a bunch of guys in the fire department. I know a bunch of guys through just general contact friends that they say, hey, look, I took this, and this. I feel better. I took some aspirin, did this, take a cold shower. Make sure you get up and move. If you got COVID, move So, of course, I did what everybody else would do. I searched the internet. And whatever it said, I was like, boom, that's going to do it. I'm going to be okay the next day. Wednesday was pretty much awful. I think I forgot like 2 days of my life. And I think that was a Tuesday, Wednesday, and pretty much kind of Thursday. So my wife was concerned. So she was like, look, just please, let's go to the care team. Just let her see you. And she says everything okay, I'm good. And of course me, I'm like, it's already good. Trust me, if I go to sleep tonight and get some sleep, I'm gonna be better tomorrow. But I was just hard-headed. And as I say this, I hope people pick up on the fact to like listen to certain parts of what I'm saying and take that. Don't take my whole speech, but take part of that to learn when you're doing patient assessments, things like that. Because a lot of times I was looked at and they look at you and say, yo, you're healthy, you're gonna be fine. And they would send me on my way. And that happened more than once. So just remember your patient assessment and what you need to do. So Thursday we decided to go to the care team. Of course I had COVID, told them about that. And she said, I'll see you out in the parking lot. Well, as soon as she put that SpO2 on my finger, I was in the back seat and I wasn't feeling good, I'll be honest, but I told her, I told her I was feeling better. So she didn't look at my SpO2 because I was kind of concerned because it was like 89, 90. And I know in the fire department, you get down to 85, we're gonna put a 15-liter non-rebreather. And I was like, but she was like, Ken, if you don't mind, can you get up, walk maybe 5 steps, walk back? And I was like, that's weird. You know, I thought you would look at my SpO2 and say, hey, something's, but she didn't. So I did the walk. I came back, I sat down, and then she told me, she said, I got some concerns. And I was like, she's gonna say my SpO2. And she said, your heart rate. So another thing, make sure you got a family physician, somebody that knows you personally. Because she knew me personally. She went in, she read my file before I got there. So she knew my resting heart rate would be like 69, maybe a little bit lower. And it was 90 when she put it on there, went up to like 118, close to 130. So she knew my heart was giving oxygen to something that needed it, but something was blocking it in my lungs. So she couldn't say I had pneumonia, but with what she was saying, because she couldn't take x-rays there, she was like, pretty sure you have pneumonia. She said, so can y'all do me a favor? And I was like, what? She said, can you go get an x-ray? And I said, yeah. So when I left, I said, no, I ain't gonna get no x-ray. I know that's bad. I did. I was like, no, I ain't gonna get no x-ray. I said, look, this thing's gonna pass. I feel better because, you know, at that time, she prescribed me like an inhaler and some antibiotics, things like that. So I was like, all right, I'll do what she said. I'm good. I'm not going to get no x-ray. I'm good. Of course, it was getting worse, you know. So on Friday, we went to another facility and they did x-rays. And I was honest for the first time. The doctor comes in, he goes, Mr. Jones, he said, you got COVID plus pneumonia. And I was like, oh man. I was like, it's pretty bad. He goes, no. He said, you're healthy, you're strong, you're okay. Took no vitals, no nothing. They did take my vitals, but he never read them. He never seen where my heart rate was off. He never seen my SpO2. So he was like, tell you what I want you to do. I said, what's that? He said, go home, take some Tylenol for your fever. You're gonna be fine. Which I thought, hey man, that's a doctor. He just told me that I'm gonna be fine. And again, that was on Friday. Saturday was just horrible. I mean, you know, I did the inhale. I did everything. I did the COVID, land on your stomach, you know, trying to sleep. And things just weren't right. But I wouldn't admit to it. Again, usually in the EMS field, we're the worst patients. You know that, you've seen it. And my goal was always to get back to work. I gotta go back to work. And if I go to the hospital, no. So I said, I'm gonna fight this. I think I was taking zinc, everything, you know, everything I read. So after that process, Saturday I was feeling bad. My wife was concerned. And then the person from the care team, I don't know if I can say her name, but she was like my lifesaver. Laura, she was really concerned. She knew that shouldn't have been going on. So she just wanted to check, make sure everything was okay. And then she said, you may want to get him to a hospital. In fact, she said that several times and I didn't do it. So I went to a hospital and I stayed there for probably 2 hours and they told me it was going to be another 4 or 5 hours. So I did what most guys would do. I got up and left and said, look, I'm gonna do everything you tell me to do. And I was telling my wife this, if you just, let's just let this go. And she was like, no, she's upset. And I was like, let's just go. So we left, went home. Sunday was like a blur. It's just a blur. I guess my body needed oxygen. I wasn't giving it to it, so my brain wasn't adjusting right. I was telling you I lost a few days of my life because when I pinpointed, it was just gone. So that was Saturday. Sunday was the hospital. So Monday, Laura called back, my wife's concerned, and she said, look, I'll be happy if you just go get his SpO2. His blood gas. She said, if you get his blood gas, we're good. I'll leave you alone. You're good. So I was happy then because I was like, they're going to leave me alone if I get my blood gas. Of course, we call around to hospitals and everybody was pretty much full. They weren't taking anybody. So that's when we started to go. We went to Eden Hospital. So we get there and I'm like, walk up, give the lady my information. And she said, look, we're full. We're not taking patients. I said, well, not here to be admitted. I said, can you do my blood gas? And she got happy. She was like, oh yeah, we can do your blood gas. And just to back up a little bit, I'm not like talking like I'm talking to you. I'm going kind of like, I still got the little, and she's like, yeah, we'll do your blood gas, you're fine. And she said, you're COVID, right? I said, yes. So she said, you got to go to the COVID ER. So I was like, COVID ER? I wonder what that looks like. I wish I had never said that too. So she said, we took our chapel and we made it a COVID ER. So I walked in that place, and I don't know if you ever seen the movie The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. And I'd never experienced that. You have to understand, especially from the fire point of view, we go to somebody's house, we package them, and we get them, usually if we drive into the hospital, that's all we see. We never see that side of it. I see it on TV. I heard about hospital being over full, and I heard some people say, well, it is not. It's all their way of just trying to get you to believe in this pandemic. So I've listened to everything, trust me, on both sides, not just on one, both sides. So I walk in there and I try to find a corner because people are laying on the floor. They got oxygen bottles. They got their little private blood pressure cuffs on, and those are laying all over the floor. So I find me a little corner. I sit in it. I'm going, I don't belong with these people, Of course, I'm breathing hard at the time. I'm like, I shouldn't be here, the whole time I was thinking. So then one of the nurses come to get me. He came and got me. He was like, Mr. Jones, and I was like, yeah. And he, the usual thing, Marvin Ken Jones, tell me your name, date of birth, did that. He said, well, look, I'm here to do your vitals. Also, I'm going to do a COVID test again. And then we're going to have somebody come in and do your blood gas. I was like, all right, deal. And he said, how do you feel? A little rough. And the first question they say, he was like, have you been vaccinated? And I said, no. He said, why? And I said, I wasn't sure. He said, wasn't sure about what? And I'm like, he's getting aggressive with me. And I'm thinking, hey, look, I didn't do it. I should have, whatever. But then, he said something important. He said, you're going to get to see stuff that most people don't see. And he said, when you leave here, I want you to take it with you. He said, that's a COVID ER in there where people land. And he said, these are mothers and dads who are away from their kids. He said, so it's real. He said, it is real. So I was like, okay, but I'm still Ken. So I said, okay, but I go, okay. So then I put my mask back on. I go sit down. I said, well, how long is this going to take? Because my wife's waiting on me. He said, usually 10 to 15 minutes, we'll have you straight, be time to go. I said, okay. So about 15 minutes, he comes and gets me, and I'm like, okay. I said, what's going on? He said, well, what's your name? I said, I just told you. He said, what is your name? I said, Marvin Ken Jones. He said, what's your date of birth? Told him my date of birth. He said, what is today? Told him what's today. And I'm talking like this, but I want you to go like, Ken Jones, I told you. And then, so I'm still got the deep breath, but they're short. And I know about the dead space, that I'm not circulating air. Something's wrong. And then I was like, you're starting to scare me. And he said, you should be scared. And that's when, it's kind of like you hear those saying, you got a great plan. And then they said, until Mike Tyson punches you in the face, your plans are gone. Because when he said that, and the look on his face, it changed everything. Because to this point, I thought I could fight this, but I knew I couldn't. And he said, your blood gas is so low, I don't even see how you're standing here. And I'm like, dude, you really scare me. And he looked at me again and he said, you should be scared. So I'm still sitting there going, no way. I said, we're leaving. He said, you're not going nowhere. And that's the same group of people who told me they wouldn't accept me because they were full and they already had 8 people on it. So I knew my blood gas must be really, really low. So the funny thing, I seen people walking around the hospital with the oxygen tanks on the wheels. I said, that's not going to be me. 5 minutes later, that was me, and I'm like, oh man. But the only relief I got, and they put me on like 5%, 3%. And I can remember, like, I told him, I said, look, I got to use the bathroom. And he was like, yeah, no problem. And it was like quickly going downhill. I mean, it was a struggle for me just to go to the bathroom. That was pretty rough because of the oxygen. And they found the exam table and they put me on that. And so when I got on that, they put me in this room, and I got a little video. I think I had a video of it because I was telling her about it. So they found a place for me, and I was thinking, if anything happens, nobody knows I'm here. I mean, I'm in this little room. I haven't seen anybody, whatever. So that started about 11 or so, 11, 12 o'clock during the daytime, and I guess about 8, 9 o'clock is when they were finally getting me a room. And they got me a room, but it was in the ER, exam rooms in the ER, that they had converted into a COVID hospital. And it was the weirdest thing ever, because again, I'm the same guy that's seen it from the news on Facebook. I'd never seen this up close, never. And I think my heart didn't bleed for myself, but it was for the nurses. It was awful. I mean, you got to think they're short-staffed on maintenance, food prep, everything. It's not just them. And they're getting burnt out, so we're losing them. So I had this one lady trying to push this cart that had weird wheels on it, so we're like banging into stuff. And I want to get out and help her, but I'm in no shape at that time to help her. So she finally gets me to this thing, and I remember the zipper. They zip that thing, and you're like, oh man, this is real. This is no joke, and I get in there, there's no windows, there's a HEPA fan, and it's got, that little wounding sound, and they can't turn it off, and it's loud. And that's it, no bathrooms, no nothing, so I'm in there. And I was thinking, and they had just pulled a patient out, and they put me in, so the room wasn't clean or nothing. But again, I'm grateful. I'm not complaining at all. And I'll tell you that at the end of the story, I'll tell you about that part of it. So they get me in there, and finally, the doctor and the nurse practitioner come in. Her name, I'm not sure if I can say it.
You can say it.
Hagen, she's wonderful. And Dr. Johns, he's wonderful too. Really, really nice people. So they come in, and they tell me all the things, they're gonna do and try to do. And I was like, so when I get to go home? And he was like, you're not going home. He said, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't have time for games and the plan. He said, these 2 days are going to be pretty rough. And that was starting. They came in Monday night, and he said, we're going to start you on remdesivir and all these other chemicals and drugs. And because I'm going to tell you what, my veins were like wonderful when I went in, but by the time they finished, I was almost dehydrated. So he said, I need for you to fight. He said, that's all I'm asking. He said, look, and I know. He said, this whole thing, especially with COVID, possible Delta virus, the catalyst is oxygen. So if it needs oxygen and you want oxygen, he said, we got to split it in the middle. So I'm going to starve it a little bit, and I'm going to starve you a little bit. And he said, we're going to make this work. He said, so are you ready to fight? And please don't get the picture of me like this, with a shirt on, whatever. I was actually in the bed with oxygen going, can I get, and that's it. And I was scared, and that was my moment, my second moment of saying, how do you fight when you feel like this? I mean, really. And one of the good things about it, friends, family, they don't realize this, and even he realized this. He was a man of faith. Whatever your religious belief is, he was a man of faith, and he believed that my cell phone was my encouragement, because I still had guys from the fire department texting me. I couldn't talk, but I could see their texts. And I know everybody said don't use K. K was about all I could do. And I couldn't do K because I didn't have my glasses on. So I might have sent you a B or a C or something, but I sent something.
Sure that they are glad to get anything.
I think so, yeah. Because the confusion of where I was at and what I was doing. So Tuesday, I got my lines in, both arms. The worst thing was, well, not the worst thing, it was some things worse than that, was, of course, you get your 2 shots in your stomach every day, for blood clots. Mm-hmm. And, when they came in and you could look and see the needles, and you knew which one, the first time they do it, that needle. Because she would come in and I was like, oh, no. I'll get like, no, and she goes, yeah, and you go, oh, come on, and then but I knew that was their job to make me better, so I always tell myself I'm not complaining. I say it's me. I put me in this situation. You didn't put me in this situation. I didn't say it like that. Of course, keep using my breathing voice. If I did that, this would last way too long. So Tuesday, they started their regimen on me. Tuesday and Wednesday was probably the worst days ever. I mean, those were the days where if they come in to do an x-ray on me, as a grown man, I would cry. Moving out of a comfortable position was just a nightmare. So Tuesday was really rough. I tried to limit the information that my wife got. If you're in the EMS field, it's going to be really rough because you know what they're saying to a certain degree. When they start talking about your SpO2s and bumping you up and giving you full oxygen, and that's the scary thing when they come in and they're telling you that. So fast forward to Wednesday, with the fan going, that small room, no windows, no bathrooms, no contact with anybody, no limited sleep. You know, sometimes they don't want you to do a deep sleep because if you do, you could actually fall into a REM sleep. So the goal was maybe to keep me up as much as possible, lighting. But hey, again, I understand why. So Wednesday, I'll be honest with you, with everybody's watching, even the guys in the fire department, I pretty much lost it. Mentally, when he came in that evening, that night, I told him I was done. Mentally, I was done. I don't know what fighting looks like to him, but it was over for me. And I told him that. And I said, well, if you don't mind, can you sign me out? And he said, you can sign yourself out. We can't keep you here. We're not obligated to keep you here. You can. He said, but you will not make it through that door out the front door without dying. He said, it's not going to happen. He said, you're not going to make it out on your own. And another reality check. So crawl back in that bed, and again, you know, that was one of my checkpoints of, come on, Ken, you got to do this. And that's the cool thing about looking at your phone, because they were doing prayers at the fire station, my church, family, you know, I love you, you can get through this. And the whole time I'm thinking, you know, I really put a burden on everybody. And that's not my goal in life. My goal in life through everything that I do is to make it easier on other people. So Wednesday night, the goal was to keep me above 62 SpO2 with my high flow oxygen. About 2 o'clock that morning, they came in to give me my other shot, and the nurse said, look up, you know, and I guess that's Thursday. I looked up and it was like 74. And, you know, that was such a relief. I was like, you know, I kind of made it through this, you know, but, you know, they didn't want me to get overconfident because this thing had a chance of relapsing, so they not too confident. But I was happy, and she was happy. And I was like, well, do you have to give me the shot? And she said, yes. Okay, go for it. So we get into Thursday, things are getting better. Our new fire chief, his wife works there. She came in and she saw the room and she was like, oh my God, this is horrible. And next thing I look up, she's cleaning it and wiping, got a mop, and she's like waving at me because she knows I'm there. But the sad thing is she knew about it, but she couldn't come see me because she had a patient that had COVID that she was trying to balance between the two, and her heart was just breaking. Because, you know, they were on a vent, and hey, and I said, you don't have to come take care of your patient, I'm fine. But she was a sweetheart, she helped with that. So Thursday night, I got lucky. You was asking about the bed. They told me they were gonna bring me a bed Thursday night. And even though it was just a bed about that, it felt like a king size bed. When I laid on that thing, I was like, oh my God, this is cool. I'm on this bed, it's got the little buttons on the side. I said, man, I'm gonna have fun now, which, still breathing hard, but I know things are gonna get better, and I felt better. So Thursday night, they took me, that was the ICU, makeshift ICU they put me in. They were gonna take me up to ICU because my oxygen was still low and they were still worried about me. And they were rolling me out, and it was like, I thought things would be better when they rolled me out, and it was worse. There were patients lined up on both sides. And I can remember this, and I went around talking to some of the guys, so they've heard this story before. I looked and there was this young kid, he was on the COVID position, and come to find out we had the same thing because they ended up bringing him upstairs with me. And when I got up to my room, and they were telling me, look, we still got to give you this, and you're going to recover, whatever. And I tell the guys in the fire station, the horror story behind it is, they came in and told me that it was 30 of us in COVID ER or in ICU, and they had about 8 more patients still in the chapel, which was the COVID ER, and then of course the ICU, and nobody had been vaccinated. So I'm not trying to push a point to anybody, but I just want you to hear my whole story. Don't leave and say, Ken's whole point of this was to get you to do something. Now I want you to listen to my story and base it off of what you hear me say. So I heard a trauma goal come in. And again, being in the fire service, we know what a trauma goal is. You have that golden hour. And they had to divert them 2 hours away. And for me, being on that EMS side, that's heartbreaking. And I'm gonna try not to cry now, but it may happen. I hope they made it. I pray to God that they made it. But if they didn't, man, that's hard to look in the mirror, It is. Because I promise you, I knew what it meant. And I'm at the fire station before all this, and I can hear what the guys are saying. I'm not going to put some kind of chemical in me, and they don't know what it is. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. They may put this in to track me. I heard everything. But the bottom line to it, if you get to that point that I was at, or even get in the hospital, the doctor told me, you don't know the chemicals we done put in your body. You don't. You're looking at gallons based on you sitting here worried about that. Just a little that. And the same guys I work with walk through the fire station with a Bang drink that's watermelon flavored, and I'm on the hazmat team. If I research the back of that thing and look at the chemicals on that thing, and then you're gonna sit here and tell me that's what you're worried about? Again, I'm not forcing this idea on you. I just want you to hear what I have to say. So, Friday, a little tough. Still with the shots, still with the medication, and trust me when I say medications, I got one of my bills, it was $27,000, and that was pretty much medications, and one dose they gave me was $3,500. And again, yes. So, that was for that one. They gave me like a double dose of something, and that was that much. And I was like, because they got it broke down, I asked for an itemized list, because they charged me for a TV that I never turned on down there. So, but I was happy.
What you call it, the exam table?
Oh yeah. I think they reduced it. I think they did. I think that was $850. But so Friday come around, and all these things are happening, and he comes in Friday evening, and he's talking to me. He said, well, look, your recovery is amazing. I'm literally in there. This time I'm actually fighting. I'm doing like little squats. I got my spirometer. I'm breathing. I'm pushing this thing. I want out of here. I want somebody in my place that they can do whatever to make sure they're okay. So, all right. So again, Friday, I'm trying to do everything I can to increase my lung capacity, and of course, some of the things that I'm going to add on, Hagen, she was the nurse practitioner, and she was like one of the big forces behind it. And to show you how much they care for you, on her day off, which was Wednesday, that she knew that was my tough day, that morning, I guess she came in just to make sure that, they were telling me to fight. She was there. Then that Wednesday evening, she comes back in, same thing. That night, she comes back in, and then I find out it was her day off, but she just wanted to make sure. So, of course, my daughter's writing a letter of recommendation for her and for the doctor. And we'll skip almost to the end. So Saturday, they bring in the respiratory therapist, and they're kind of amazed. I'm almost at like 94, 95. And, they do the 10-minute exercise thing. And she was like, oh my God, you're doing great. And everybody goes, well, Ken, you're in great shape. That's why it happened. Now that's a part of it. Some of the prayers that went up, some of the people who were praying for me. The other part of it is, this thing is so selective. When he was talking to me, he said that if you know anybody who said they're an expert at this virus, or they know so much about this virus, he said, run, turn your TV off, don't look at social media. He said, because this thing goes from a sniffle to death. So it has no standard. age-wise, it has no standards. You know, I think I've seen a 20-year-old pass while I was there, same thing that I had. So how do you even put that in the same gesture? You know, it's not. So, and then he was like, well, what's some of the rumors that you've heard? And I told, one of my best ones was, I said, what happened to the flu? And he said, what do you mean what happened to the flu? You know what happened to the flu. And I was like, what? He said, well, he said, 2 years ago, me and my wife would be sitting in a restaurant. Somebody walk in, say, hey, doc, how are you? I would stand up, shake their hand, have a conversation with them no more than a foot apart because I can't hear, I'm getting close. They didn't wash their hands, nothing. They just came directly and I would sit down, start eating, pass my wife something. And throughout our history, that was our goal, and we didn't realize it. We were passing these germs. So this brief moment in life of 2 years, men have fist bumped. And that's not even considered a standard for men. We shake hands to make sure it's firm. They look us in the eye and we talk. But now we stretch our arms as far as we can to do that social distance. We wear the mask, which he talked about the mask. The mask definitely is not going to eliminate any virus. But it's like in the hazmat team, when you go on any type of radiation call, time, distance, and shielding. Best way to keep it away from you is time, which is distance, shielding, which is your mask. It just keeps the particles from going as far. And those are the things we did as Americans, and we didn't even take credit for it because all this happened during a political change. So everybody's got to like pick sides, choose sides. So the way I talk to the guys at the station who want to listen to what I have to say, I always say family. What I put my family through, it was heartbreaking. My dad, you know, he couldn't wait just to see me. You know, my wife, I saw her for 5 seconds. Out of 6 days, 5 seconds, that was it. She took me to the hospital and I thought we were going to get in the car and drive away, and we didn't. And then I think on Thursday, the door opened. She did that and they shut the door. That's all I saw her. So if your friends, family, your kids, that's it. The other thing about this is financial. Financial, I think I told you about one of the bills. I have other bills from other places coming in. So I'm looking at probably anywhere from maybe $6,000, $7,000. Then if I look at time lost at work and things like that, not all but most of my jobs, I'm probably looking at maybe $10,000, $15,000. And that's lost from my family, whether it's a vacation, whether it's something we do for retirement or whatever, that's lost. You don't get that back. And I guess the hardest thing for me is to realize, was that trauma goal? I mean, that's something that will be in my mind forever. So I get home, a couple days later, maybe a week later, I get something in the mail and it says, we would like for you to rate this hospital. And on there it had, how was your service? And I'm thinking 1 through 5. Well, 5 through 1. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. I put 1. How was your room? I told you what it looked like. 1. Then it says, how was your nurse? Some were good, some were bad, but I put 2. And I went through this, and I know at the end of this, they asked for comments. And I told them, the best service in the world. This does not fit a COVID situation. What you did for me was life-changing, and it saved my life. So I would ask you to change this just a little bit for patients like me who will always appreciate what you've done for me. Because what you're doing is based off of me coming in, maybe a 1-day surgery and everybody smiling, hey, we're gonna get you and you're gone. What I went through and what I seen the nurses go through were just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And the sad thing, they were leaving. My daughter's a nurse at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in LA. 2 of the nurses were going there to work, $10,000 a week. Not bad. But then again, that drops 2 more rooms at their hospital. And some of them are just tired. One lady said she's done. Sweetest lady ever. We were sitting there talking and she said she was done. She wanted to go back to where she was working a private practice. Making this money wasn't important. And I'll say this for all the guys, EMS, fire. One thing the doctor told me was he heard that I was a fireman. You know, more than 20 years in, they're scared to death of us because we don't know what's in our lungs. We go on car fires, We don't mask up right away. We go to house fires. That smoke is coming out in the street as the truck is pulling up. We do overhaul. We go into houses where there's smells. And he said it scares him to death. He said, when I hear it's a fireman, EMS worker, he said, it scares me to death because you already don't know what's in your lungs. So at the end of the day, gave a couple speeches throughout different stations, different people bringing me in. And at the end of it, I think I did the 9/11. And at the end of it, I just tell everybody, smile a little brighter, hug a little tighter, a little bit longer, and enjoy life. But at the end of the day, protect your family and yourself. That's it.
Like post-COVID, like long haulers, I guess because, are you having any symptoms now? Like, what are you dealing with now?
I see what you're saying.
Like, I guess, because some people are like, oh, it's over with. He's better. He's back to Ken Jones. Like, okay, the financial burden and all
that, but it's, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
That's the only thing that I might want to add.
Okay. Well, we'll add a little bit of the post-COVID. I think one of the things was, I told you being in a makeshift ER exam room. The lights are on. You're getting IVs, you're getting treatment, and they try not to let you sleep. My first night home, it was, we turned all the lights off. And I was freaked out. I hadn't seen darkness in so long that I kind of freaked out. I couldn't sleep because I always had somebody coming in to either draw blood, give me my shot in my stomach, start my IVs. And one of the sad things, I was in there in the hospital one day, and I had, well, you can see right here. Well, this eye, it blew. This one right here's got a spot, that one blew. So I'm hitting a button, I'm like, hey, can somebody come help me? And they get on that. Mr. Jones will have somebody right away. I'm like, okay. Hit the button again. And this is like 45 minutes later, because I'm still under this deal where I don't want to bother nobody, but fluid has just gained in his arm. And then this one right here is bleeding. And she put it in a bin, which I didn't quite understand why, but hey, I'm again happy. So about 2 hours later, it's excruciating pain. So I decided, look, I'll pull it out myself. Then of course, I can't get to the feed, but so I get a Band-Aid on that. I pull this one. So I get a Band-Aid on this one, and I get up and I try to clean up best I can. And the girl that was going, and she actually got in contact with my daughter. They had somebody code in the COVID unit, and she had to work a code. And to see her young face, it was unreal, and my heart bled for her, and, but it just changed her, those kind of things make her wonder, am I doing the right thing? And I made her realize she was, because I was almost at that point, and they brought me back to this point here. One of the biggest post thing was just my breathing. My lungs capacity was pretty much of nothing. And that's where I just did the extra. I really did. Whatever they told me to do, I added a little bit, but on a safety side of it, and that was to get my lung capacity back up. And I guess now, the fear, that's always gonna be in my mind for one of my coworkers. And if I hear they have COVID, and I hope it's just a sniffle. But if it's not, it bothers me how we have come, and I did, trust me, I promise you. I'm one of the people who said, hey, this is not gonna happen to me. I wanna get back to my normal life. I'm gonna do this, that, and whatever. So at the end of all of this, I guess right now I still have just that little, every once in a while I do that because I got so used to doing it that I'll do that automatically. But now I would say I'm about 95%, and I think 100% is not out of the question in the next couple of weeks, but you're looking at almost a month later. And my fear now is, what are the side effects of having COVID? And I don't know, they don't know, but I do like the fact that they're still keeping in touch with me to make sure that I'm okay, and send me the letters, and I'm following up with the care team here, following up with my doctor here, so that's one of my things I'm gonna try to monitor as I go through this process. So there's always that safety zone.
Knowing the EMT workers that are going out and seeing COVID patients, multiple times a day, every single day, 7 days a week. And unfortunately, that's like becoming a norm for them. Is there anything that you maybe could say to kind of open their eyes that this is still?
Well, when this first started, I was working on a fire truck, and my first call was on Clifton. And I can remember going back like a year and a half later, and that the person we went to see had passed from COVID. Like anything, we take it as the norm or we turn it into the norm, but this is not the norm. It may be a slight touch for you where you get chills or you just get a sniffle or you get something where you think it's just like an allergy, but what you take back to your family can destroy your life forever because that's your burden. It's not theirs. I know the risks that we go through, and I know how we can get nonchalant on calls. We can get back to the station and decide, look, I done washed my hands 100 times. I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to get vaccinated. I just don't think it's going to help because I've heard all this other stuff. You know, if my experience was different, maybe it would be a little different, but it's not. You know, the thing of it is save yourself, save your family, and financially keep your family above water. You know, I run calls with the Danville Life Saving Crew, myself. You know, we are going through phases of how we're treating this, and we can see it coming back around. You know, when I made it back to the fire station my first day, it was kind of heartbreaking. I think 4 or 5 calls were COVID positive calls. And I can see it truly happening again. And we may think we have this under control, but we don't. We really don't. I hope the little walkthrough that I did of what I experienced just gives you a slight bit of what I went through. Something that he said to me was so important. He told me, he said, Ken, he said, I want you to go back to Danville. I don't want you to go to Pennsylvania County. I don't want you to go to Blair. I don't want you to go to New York. I don't want you to go to California. He said, I want you to go to your hometown area. Get you a piece of paper. And I want you to write on the people that you know personally who has had COVID, who has had severe symptoms from COVID, and then put the people who have died from COVID. And on this other list, I want you to do the same thing with the people that you know have been vaccinated in your area. Put the people who have died from the vaccination, who have had severe complications from the vaccination. Now, in my experience, I can tell you, I lost a good friend when I got back to Danville, and I lost more friends since that time, and I got to thinking about the past. My list was overwhelming on this side. So do your own research. It doesn't have to be something you read. You live in Danville, especially the EMS workers, do your own research. That's the easiest thing to do. Don't walk off from this film and saying, Ken messed up on like 8 words that I'm pretty sure he did incorrectly. I want you to walk away from this and just take small snippets of what I said and apply it to your life and your career. That's all I ask you to do. The guys I work with, the station I work with, when I finished talking to them, all 3 went and got vaccinated. All 3 are doing well. And I appreciate it because I care about them. I care about them and their families. If you decide not to get it, it's not like I'm gonna go out and jump all over you, but I have good information for you. I really do.